The night was quiet. The streets were empty, only the sound of cold wind moving between the old buildings. Inside a small diner, a young man named Daniel was cleaning tables. It was late, far past midnight, and most people were asleep. The glowing neon sign outside buzzed softly, flickering on and off. Daniel sighed. Another long day was over. He picked up the last plate, stacked it behind the counter, and was ready to lock the door when the bell above it rang. The sound made him jump. Who had come at this hour? He turned his head, expecting maybe a drunk customer or a homeless man asking for food, but it was neither. A girl stepped inside. She looked strange. Her clothes were torn and dirty, as if she had been running for miles. Her face was pale, almost shining under the yellow diner lights. And her eyes glowed faintly like dying stars. Daniel froze. Something about her felt different. Not normal, not safe. She walked slowly toward him, her steps soft, weak. She looked so tired she could collapse at any moment. Then she spoke, her voice quiet, broken but clear. I only have $2, human. Please, let me sleep in a warm bed. Daniel's heart skipped. Human, why call him that? Everyone was human here. The way she said it, it was like she wasn't. For a second, Daniel thought it was a joke, maybe a crazy runaway. But when her eyes glimmered again, a shiver ran down his spine. He gripped the counter, unsure if he should answer or run. The girl placed the 2 coins on the counter. Her hands trembled. They were small, delicate, but faint sparks of light danced over her skin like static. Daniel's eyes widened. That was not normal. He forced a shaky smile. This isn't a hotel. We don't rent beds here. She looked down, disappointment heavy on her face. Her shoulders dropped. For a moment she looked less like a stranger and more like a lost child. Then, just a chair, she whispered. Please, somewhere warm. Just for tonight. Daniel swallowed. Every instinct told him to send her away. Something about her was dangerous, he could feel it. But there was also pity. She looked broken, weak, like she had been running from the whole world. He sighed and poured her a cup of hot coffee. Here, drink this. It's free. She blinked at the steaming cup, almost as if she had never seen such kindness before. Carefully she held it, her glowing eyes reflecting the liquid. She sipped slowly. Her lips trembled, and for the first time Daniel saw a small smile. Outside, the wind grew stronger. A trash can rolled across the street. Daniel glanced through the window. The shadow seemed longer tonight, darker. He shook his head, telling himself it was just his imagination. The girl set the cup down. You shouldn't have helped me, she said softly. Daniel frowned. Why? They will see it. They always see it. Her words made no sense. Daniel opened his mouth to ask more, but then he noticed her hands again. Small sparks still flickered across her fingers, fading in and out. His stomach tightened. Whoever she was, she wasn't lying. He leaned closer. Who are you? She looked at him with those glowing eyes, and for the first time he realized she was afraid. Before she could answer, something moved outside. Daniel's eyes snapped to the glass window. Across the street, in the foggy darkness, 3 tall figures stood, still as statues, watching the diner. His blood turned cold. The girl noticed them too. She grabbed the cup with both hands, trying not to shake. They followed me, she whispered. They always follow. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. The figures outside didn't move, but somehow he could feel their eyes. He couldn't see their faces, yet he knew they were looking at him. At her, at both of them. What are they? He asked, voice breaking. She shook her head. Not tonight, please, just let me stay. I am so tired, Daniel's mind raced. If he let her stay, whatever those things were might come inside. If he sent her out, she might die in the cold, or worse, be taken by them. The diner felt smaller now, the walls closing in. The hum of the neon sign outside grew louder, like a warning. She sat quietly, waiting, her face pale and her eyes shining in the dim light. Daniel didn't answer. He couldn't. His chest was tight, his thoughts tangled. But deep inside, he knew this was no ordinary night. This girl, whoever she was, had brought something dangerous to his door, and the shadows outside were not leaving. Daniel locked the diner door, his hands shaking. He didn't know why he did it. Maybe he thought the lock would keep the shadows out. Maybe he just needed to do something, anything, instead of standing frozen. The girl sat in the booth near the window, holding the coffee cup with both hands. The steam had faded, but she still held it like it was the only warmth left in the world. Her eyes glowed softly, not as bright as before, but enough to remind Daniel that she was not like him. Not human. He pulled up a chair across from her. His voice was low, uncertain. "What are you? And why did you call me human?" The girl's gaze dropped to the cup. For a long time she said nothing. The silence pressed heavy in the small diner, broken only by the buzzing neon outside. Finally she whispered, "Because that is what you are. And I am not." Daniel swallowed hard. "Not?" She looked up, and in that moment her glowing eyes seemed older, filled with stories and pain he couldn't imagine. "I came from above. From the sky." Daniel let out a weak laugh, though his chest was tight. "You mean space? You're telling me you're an alien?" Her lips curved into the faintest smile, not of joy but of sadness. "Your word is alien. Mine is exile." Exile. The word cut sharp in the air. Daniel leaned back, unsure if he should believe her or call her insane. But then he remembered the sparks on her skin, the way those faceless figures stood outside, silent and watching. He rubbed his forehead. "Why come here? Why this place?" Her eyes flickered. "I had no choice. I ran, I fell, and I found this world, a world that is small but alive, noisy but warm. I wanted to see what it means, to be safe. Safe." The way she said it, like she had never felt that before, made Daniel's stomach twist. He wanted to ask more, but his words stuck when he noticed her hand. She wasn't holding the coffee cup anymore. She was holding the metal spoon. The metal bent slowly between her fingers, curling like soft clay. Daniel stared. No tricks, no machines. Just strength. Too much strength for someone so thin, so tired. He whispered, "What are they? The ones outside?" Her glow dimmed. She placed the twisted spoon on the table. "Hunters. They come for me. They will not stop. They are not alive like you. They are made, sent." Daniel's chest tightened. "Sent by who?" She hesitated, then leaned forward, her voice trembling. "By those who built me." The words hit Daniel like ice water. He blinked. "Built you? Wait, are you saying you're not even—" "I was made, not born," she said quickly, her hands tightening around the empty cup. "But I was made wrong. I feel, I fear, I want." Her voice cracked, and for the first time her glowing eyes shimmered with something else. Tears. Daniel didn't move. His mind fought the truth, but his heart saw her shaking. Whatever she was scared. Outside, the shadows shifted. One of them stepped closer to the diner window. Daniel's skin crawled. The figure had no face, no eyes, but its head tilted slightly as if it was listening to every word inside. He forced himself to look away and focus on her. "Why here? Why me?" She shook her head. "I don't know. Maybe because you are the first one I found. The first who looked at me without hate." Daniel laughed bitterly. "You don't know me. Maybe I'm worse than the rest." Her glowing eyes locked with his. "If you were worse, you would have opened the door. You would have given me to them already." Her words silenced him. He realized she was right. He didn't understand why, but some small part of him didn't want to see her taken. He ran a hand through his messy hair. "Listen, I don't know what you are or what you want from me, but this—" He pointed at the dark figures outside. "This isn't normal. They won't just leave, will they?" She lowered her head. "No, they will wait. They don't grow tired. They don't forget." Daniel's stomach dropped. He looked at the clock on the wall. It was past 2 in the morning. Hours until dawn. Could they really stay trapped here all night? The girl's voice broke his thoughts. "You asked what I am." He turned back. She took a deep breath, like the truth was heavy, painful. "I was made to end life," she whispered, "to test destruction, to learn how humans break. But I could not do it. I ran away. I ran here." Daniel's blood ran cold. He stared at her, speechless. "I don't want to kill," she said, tears rolling down her glowing cheeks. "I don't want to be their weapon. I just want to sleep, to feel warm, to be human." For a long moment, Daniel couldn't breathe. The diner was silent except for the hum of the lights and the faint scratching sound of the shadows outside. He finally whispered almost to himself, "What the hell have I gotten into?" The girl looked at him with tired eyes. "A choice," she said softly. "You have a choice now. Help me, or hand me back." Her words hung in the air like a knife, and Daniel knew the night had only just begun. The diner's lights flickered. Daniel's heart thudded as he glanced at the window. The figures outside were closer now. 3 of them stood at the edge of the street. Their tall shapes bent the light around them, like shadows cut out of the night. They had no faces, no mouths, yet Daniel felt their gaze piercing through the glass. The girl sat frozen in the booth, her pale hands tight around the empty coffee cup. She whispered, "They're here." Daniel's throat went dry. "I see them," he muttered, his voice barely holding steady. The tallest figure took a step forward. The sound wasn't like footsteps. It was heavy, vibrating as if the ground itself hummed. The neon sign outside sparked and went dark, leaving the diner lit only by dim ceiling bulbs. The street outside fell into deeper shadow. Daniel's hands shook. "What do they want?" "They want me," the girl said. Her eyes glowed faintly, fear mixing with sadness. "They don't stop until they take back what was made." Daniel stared at the door. The lock suddenly felt useless, like paper against steel. "And what happens if they get you?" he asked. She lowered her head. "Then Earth loses a chance." "A chance for what?" Her lips parted, but before she could answer, the figures moved again. This time one pressed its hand against the glass. The window didn't crack, but the air around it rippled like water. A low vibration shook the walls of the diner. Daniel jumped back. "What the hell is that?" "They can bend matter," she whispered. "They will try to enter, but they won't break, unless you give permission." Daniel blinked, confused. "Permission? What does that mean?" "They are bound to rules, to orders. They cannot cross a barrier unless the one inside opens the way. That's why they wait." Daniel looked at her in shock. "So all I have to do is keep the door locked and not invite them in?" Her eyes met his. "Yes, but they will not give up. They will make you want to." As if to prove her words, the vibration stopped. Silence fell. The figures outside didn't move, but something changed. Daniel's ears filled with a faint whisper. At first he thought it was the wind. Then he realized the voice was inside his head. "Open the door, Daniel." He froze. His name. How did they know his name? The whisper grew stronger, soft and calm like a friend. "She lies to you. She is dangerous. She will kill you. Give her to us and you will be safe." Daniel pressed his hands against his ears, but it didn't stop. He glanced at the girl. She shook her head. "Don't listen. They twist minds." The voice grew darker, sharper. "She is not like you. She is built to destroy. Hand her over, human, and live. Protect her, and die." Daniel's body shook. His head throbbed. He wanted to scream, but he forced himself to look at her. She sat trembling, her glowing eyes locked on him. "I'm not lying," she said, her voice breaking. "I don't want to hurt anyone. I just want to be free." The whisper in his mind hissed. "She will never be free. She will use you, then kill you. She is a weapon. Nothing more." Daniel slammed his fist against the counter. "Shut up." The sound of his voice echoed in the empty diner. The whispers faded for a moment, replaced by silence. The girl stared at him wide-eyed. "You fought them," she whispered. "Most humans." "They don't." Daniel paced, breathing hard. His mind was a storm. Part of him wanted to throw her out, let the shadows take her. But another part, deeper, told him she was telling the truth. She wasn't just a weapon. She was scared. Human in a way her makers never wanted. The figures outside began moving again. They circled the diner slowly, their tall shapes gliding across the street. One by one, the bulbs inside flickered and went dark. Soon only a single light above the counter remained, casting long, sharp shadows. Daniel swallowed. "What happens if they stay all night?" "They will," she said. "Until you break. Until one of us breaks." Her voice was heavy with certainty. The whispers returned, louder this time. "Sleep, Daniel. Let us in, you're tired. You can't fight us forever." Daniel clutched his head, teeth grinding. Sweat ran down his neck. He wanted to give up, to open the door just to make the voices stop. But then he looked at her again. She was sitting there, pale, broken, but alive. And he realized the shadows wanted him to see her as a monster. But all he saw was someone begging for warmth, for safety, for a chance. He gritted his teeth. "I'm not letting you in." The whispers turned into a scream, high-pitched and sharp, shaking the windows. The girl gasped, covering her ears. The glass rattled but didn't break. After a long, painful minute, the scream stopped. Silence again. Daniel collapsed into the chair, chest heaving. His vision blurred, but he stayed conscious. The girl touched his arm gently. Sparks flickered on her skin, but the touch was warm. "You chose," she whispered. "You chose to fight them." Daniel looked at her, still shaking. "And what if I made the wrong choice?" She shook her head. "There are no wrong choices, only paths. And now we walk one together." He stared at her glowing eyes, unsure if he believed her. But one thing was certain. The hunters were not leaving, and this night was far from over. The diner was silent. Too silent. The neon sign outside had gone dark, and the only light came from the weak bulb above the counter. The shadows outside no longer moved, but Daniel could feel them there, waiting, watching. The girl sat across from him, her glowing eyes dim now, like a candle burning low. She looked exhausted, her head leaning against the booth window. Her voice was barely more than a whisper. "They won't leave." "Not until one of us does." Daniel rubbed his temples. His head still rang with the echo of their whispers. "Open the door. Hand her over. Live." The words refused to leave him. He tried to push them down, but they curled in his chest like smoke. He stood and began pacing the diner. "This is insane. This is way above me. I should call someone. The police, the army, hell, NASA." The girl's lips curved into a sad smile. "It won't matter. They won't see what you see. To their eyes, the hunters will be nothing but shadows, noise. They will not believe you. And if they come close, they will vanish." Daniel froze. "Vanish? You mean killed?" Her glowing eyes lifted to his. "No, taken, absorbed into silence. Their bodies remain, but their voices are gone forever." The words hit him like a punch. His stomach twisted. He sat down hard, gripping the edge of the table. "So what am I supposed to do? Just sit here, wait until morning, and hope they get bored?" "They do not get bored," she said softly. "They only get what they came for." Her calmness frightened him more than the shadows. She wasn't panicking. She wasn't screaming. She had seen this before. Too many times Daniel stared at her. "Why me? Why my diner?" "Why tonight?" Her eyes flickered with light, reflecting sorrow. "Because you opened the door before you knew. You gave me warmth. That was enough to mark you." He cursed under his breath. His hands trembled. She was right. He had let her in. He gave her food, a seat, coffee. Something deep inside told him that act, that small kindness, had tied his fate to hers. The bulb above them flickered. Daniel jumped to his feet. The hunters were still outside, circling silently. He could almost feel their patience pressing against the glass, waiting for him to break. He moved to the back door. It led into a narrow alley behind the diner. Maybe they could escape that way. Maybe. The girl followed his gaze. "Running will not save us. They are faster than silence itself." Daniel snapped, his voice breaking. "Then what do you expect me to do? Keep you here forever? Die with you?" Her glowing eyes softened. "No, I expect you to choose." His chest tightened. The word hung heavy in the air. "Choice. Choose what?" he demanded. "Whether I live or die. Whether you protect me or give me back. Whether you believe I am more than what they built me to be." Daniel stared at her in disbelief. "You want me to decide that? I just met you tonight." "You decided already," she said quietly. "When you gave me coffee. When you let me sit. You chose without knowing." Her words cut through him. He wanted to argue, but she wasn't wrong. Some part of him had chosen already. Otherwise, he would have thrown her out the second those shadows appeared. His mind spun. He thought about the hunters' whispers. They had promised safety if he gave her up. Peace. An end to the madness. His fear told him to listen, to unlock the door, to let them take her. But when he looked at her now, thin and trembling, sparks flickering weakly on her skin, he didn't see a weapon. He saw someone broken, someone fighting just to exist. And then he realized the hunters weren't just here for her. They were here to test him. To see if a human would betray or protect. Daniel's hands clenched into fists. He stepped toward the back room and pointed. "Go, there's a cot in there. Hide. I'll figure something out." The girl blinked, surprised. "You would risk—" "I don't know what I'm risking," he snapped. "But I'm not handing you over. Not tonight." For the first time, her face softened. Not sadness, not fear, but something else. Hope. "Then I will follow your choice," she whispered. As she moved to the back room, the hunters outside reacted. The glass windows rippled like water, and the whispers returned, louder, angrier. "Foolish human. She is death. She is ruin. Give her to us, or we will take you instead." Daniel grabbed a chair and shoved it under the door handle, as if that would stop them. His heart raced, sweat dripping down his back. The whispers pressed harder, filling his mind like fire. But he forced the words out through clenched teeth. "She's not yours." The diner shook violently, lights sparking. Dishes rattled on shelves. The hunters pressed against the walls, their faceless heads tilting, their bodies melting into the darkness. Daniel stood in the middle of the diner, fists tight, every nerve screaming. He didn't know how long he could last. He didn't know if dawn would even come, but he knew one thing: he had made his choice and there was no turning back. The diner shook like it was alive. The windows pulsed with strange ripples, bending light in ways that made Daniel's stomach twist. Shadows pressed closer against the glass, tall and silent, their faceless heads tilting in unison. Daniel stood by the counter, fists clenched, sweat dripping down his back. The girl was hidden in the small back room, curled on the cot he never used. But even behind the door, her glow leaked faintly through the cracks, a soft shimmer against the dark. The whispers returned, louder now, cutting into Daniel's skull. "She will destroy you. She is poison. Hand her over and live," he ground his teeth. His legs trembled, but his voice came out steady. "No, not tonight." The shadows hissed inside his head, but when the glass didn't break, when the door didn't open, they grew still again, waiting, watching. Daniel knew he couldn't stay here. The diner was no fortress. He glanced at the back door. The alley outside was dark, but it was a way out. Maybe if they moved fast, if they stayed low, they could lose the hunters. He opened the back room door. The girl looked up, weak and pale, sparks fading on her hands. "You cannot run," she whispered. "Maybe not," Daniel said, grabbing his coat, "but sitting here is suicide. If we're going down, I'd rather fight moving than wait to be crushed." She hesitated, then nodded slowly. Her voice was soft. "If you fall, they will not leave your body behind." Daniel winced. He didn't need the reminder, but he still took her hand, surprising himself. Her skin was cold, but sparks flickered faintly between their fingers. They slipped out the back door. The alley was narrow, filled with trash cans and broken crates. The night was colder here, the wind sharp against Daniel's face. He pulled his hood up and kept moving, the girl following close behind. At first it was quiet. Too quiet. Daniel dared to hope maybe they had escaped. But then the streetlights above flickered one by one, dimming as if something sucked the power out of the air. The girl's grip tightened on his hand. "They follow." He didn't answer. He just kept moving, faster now, pulling her through the maze of alleys. His sneakers splashed through puddles, his breath harsh in the freezing night. A low hum rose behind them. Not footsteps, something heavier, deeper, like engines buried under the earth. Daniel glanced back and froze. The hunters were gliding down the alley. Their shapes bent the walls around them, stretching brick and shadow like liquid. They didn't run. They didn't need to. They were closing the distance effortlessly. "Run!" Daniel shouted, pulling the girl harder. They burst out of the alley onto an empty street. The buildings here were dead, old warehouses with boarded windows. In the distance, the city lights glowed, but here it felt abandoned, forgotten. The girl stumbled. Daniel caught her before she fell, hoisting her up against his shoulder. She was lighter than he expected, fragile. Too fragile for someone who claimed to be built as a weapon. The hum grew louder. The shadows spilled out of the alley behind them, taller now, their edges sharper. Daniel spotted an abandoned train yard up ahead. Rusted tracks stretched into the dark, leading to broken cars and half-collapsed sheds. He cursed under his breath. It wasn't safe, but it was cover. They ran into the yard, weaving between old trains. Daniel ducked into a rusted car, pushing the door shut behind them. His chest burned, his legs weak, but he forced himself to stay quiet. The girl leaned against the wall, her glow dimming. "You cannot keep this pace," she whispered. "Your body will break." Daniel gave her a look. "Yeah, well, welcome to being human." Outside, the hum passed slowly. The hunters glided between the trains, their tall shadows stretching across the steel. Their heads turned left and right, searching. Daniel held his breath, his arm around the girl, pressing them both into the corner. The whispers crawled into his head again. "We see you. You cannot hide. Give her up, Daniel, and live." Daniel squeezed his eyes shut, shaking. He wanted to scream. His skull felt like it would split. But then he felt her trembling against him, small and cold. She whispered, "Fight them." Not with strength, with choice. He forced his thoughts away from the whispers. He focused on her voice, on her glow, on the warmth of her hand still clutching his coat. Slowly, painfully, the whispers faded. The hunters moved past the train car. Their hum grew distant, swallowed by the night. Daniel finally let out a breath, collapsing onto the floor. His whole body shook. Was too close. The girl leaned beside him, eyes half closed. You resisted again. Few can do that. You are stronger than you believe, he gave a weak laugh. Strong? I'm terrified. Her lips curved into a faint smile. Fear is not weakness. Fear is proof you value life. For a moment, silence settled between them. Daniel listened to the wind rattling the broken train car. His heart still pounded, but slowly it steadied. He looked at her glowing eyes and whispered, Why do they want you so badly? If you're really just a weapon, why not build another? Why chase you all this way? She hesitated. Then, with a trembling voice, she answered, Because I am not empty. I am not silent like the others. I dream. That makes me dangerous. Daniel stared at her, realizing the truth. She wasn't just running from hunters. She was running from the very people who made her, and somehow he had been dragged into her war. Outside, the hum began to rise again. The hunters were circling back. Daniel stood, jaw tight. We can't stay here. We need to move again. Find somewhere they can't follow. The girl looked up at him, her glow flickering like a dying star. Then I will trust you, Daniel. Lead and I will follow. He nodded, though fear clawed at him. He didn't know where they were going. He didn't know how long they could last, but he knew one thing. Running wasn't over, it had only just begun. The train yard was quiet again, but Daniel knew it wouldn't last. The hunters never gave up. They had circled once, and they would circle again. He pressed his back against the cold metal wall of the train car, his breath still uneven. Beside him, the girl sat with her knees pulled close, her glowing eyes dim but steady. Her thin shoulders shook, not from the cold but from exhaustion. Daniel pulled his coat around her. She didn't resist. For a while, they just listened to the night. The wind whistled through broken train windows. In the distance, a dog barked, then fell silent. Every sound made Daniel tense, waiting for the hum of the hunters. Finally, he broke the silence. You said you were made a weapon, but you keep talking like you're more than that. What's the truth? She lifted her gaze slowly. The truth is not simple. Do you really want to hear it, Daniel? He nodded, though part of him wasn't sure. I think I deserve to know. I risked my life for you, twice tonight. Her lips curved in the smallest, tired smile. Then you shall know. She closed her eyes, her voice soft, almost like she was telling a story to herself. I was built in a place you cannot imagine. A ship that hides between stars. My makers study life across worlds. They do not love it. They do not protect it. They measure it, test it, break it to see how it bends. I was one of their tools. Daniel's stomach twisted. A lab experiment. Her eyes opened, glowing faintly. More than that. I was designed to look human. To walk among you. To find your weak points. To see how you fight, and then to end you. Daniel's chest went cold. He looked away, unsure if he should believe her. But deep inside, he already knew she wasn't lying. Then why run? He asked. If you're built for that, why not just do what they made you for? Her voice cracked. Because when I was sent into the tests, when they told me to destroy, I felt something I was not meant to feel. Daniel turned back. What? She met his gaze. Guilt and sorrow. I looked at humans, and I saw myself fragile, wanting warmth, wanting life. I was not empty like the others. I could not kill what I understood. Daniel let out a slow breath. He wanted to be angry, but all he felt was pity. She was made for death, yet all she wanted was to live. So they sent the hunters, he said quietly. She nodded. The hunters erase mistakes. They erase voices like mine. That is why they will not stop. To them, I am not a person. I am broken code, Daniel's fists clenched. But you are more than that. Her eyes widened a little, like she didn't expect him to say it. You believe that? He shrugged. I've seen enough tonight to know you're not some empty machine. Machines don't cry. Machines don't beg for warmth. Whatever they built, they didn't expect you to feel. A spark flickered across her fingers, brighter this time. She whispered, That's what makes me dangerous. Daniel frowned. Dangerous to who? To everyone, she said softly. To them, because I am proof they cannot control everything. To you, because if I lose control, my power could break more than the hunters. It could break your world. Daniel swallowed hard. He wanted to ask how much power she really held. But something in her trembling voice stopped him. She didn't brag. She wasn't proud. She was terrified of herself. Outside, the wind picked up, carrying the faint hum again. The hunters were close. Daniel peered through a crack in the metal wall. 3 tall shapes glided between the train cars, their heads turning slowly, searching. He ducked back, whispering, "They're here again." The girl nodded weakly. "They will not leave until dawn, and even then they will return tomorrow night. They will follow until I am gone." Daniel cursed under his breath. He felt the weight of the night pressing down. There was no escape, no plan that made sense. He was just a man, and they were shadows from beyond the stars. Yet when he looked at her again, pale and glowing, he felt something else. Responsibility. She was here in his world because she had chosen to run. She had chosen not to kill. And now she trusted him, a stranger more than anyone else. He whispered, "Then we'll survive until dawn." One step at a time, her lips trembled. "Why are you helping me, Daniel? You could give me to them and walk away." Daniel thought about it. Really thought. The safe thing, the easy thing, would be to hand her over. Pretend none of this ever happened. But the idea made his stomach turn. He imagined her glowing eyes going dark, her small voice silenced forever. And he knew he couldn't do it. "Because you asked for a bed," he said finally. "Because you wanted something human. And I guess I want to believe that matters." Her eyes glistened, tears mixing with faint sparks. She whispered, "Then you are not just human. You are different, too." The hum outside grew louder, shaking the train car. Daniel braced himself, his body tight. The hunters were coming closer. But for the first time that night, he didn't feel completely alone. He had the truth now. And the truth was heavy, but it gave him something to hold on to. The night was far from over. But somewhere beyond the dark, dawn waited. The night stretched on like an endless shadow. In the broken train yard, Daniel sat with his back against rusted steel, fighting to keep his eyes open. The girl leaned against him, her faint glow flickering like a dying ember. Outside, the hunters circled, their hum rising and falling, steady as a heartbeat. Daniel's body screamed for rest, but he didn't dare close his eyes. He knew if he did, the whispers would crawl back in. The hunters would try again. The girl stirred beside him, her voice fragile. "You cannot stay awake forever. Humans break." Daniel gave a tired laugh. "Yeah, well, maybe I'm stubborn." She turned her glowing eyes toward him, soft but serious. "Stubborn is why I'm still alive." He looked at her, really looked, and saw how fragile she had become. She had been built as a weapon, yet now she seemed barely able to stand. Whatever power was inside her, it was buried under exhaustion and fear. The hum outside grew sharper. The hunters glided closer, their tall shapes sliding between the train cars. Their heads tilted, sensing, searching. Daniel tensed, pulling the girl tighter against him. "Not yet," he whispered. "Not while I'm breathing." The shadows moved past again. The yard fell quiet. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Daniel listened to the wind, to his own racing heartbeat. His mind drifted to his small apartment on the other side of town. Messy, cheap, but warm. He pictured his bed, a place where he had collapsed night after night alone, and for the first time he thought about sharing it. He shook his head. "We can't stay here. It's only a matter of time before they search every corner. We need to move." The girl's eyes dimmed. "You would risk more for me?" Daniel stood, pulling her to her feet. "I've already risked everything. What's one more step?" They moved through the yard, careful and silent. The hunters drifted behind them, but Daniel stayed low, weaving between train cars until they reached the far side. A broken fence stretched ahead. Beyond it, the city lights glowed faintly, calling them home. Daniel helped her through the gap in the fence. They stumbled into the street, empty and quiet at this hour. For a moment, it felt almost normal. Just 2 people walking home late at night. Almost. The hum returned, faint but steady. The hunters were still near. Always near. Daniel pushed forward, guiding her through alleys he knew, streets he had walked 100 times. At last, they reached his building. A narrow, crooked structure with peeling paint and a buzzing light above the entrance. It wasn't much, but it was his. Inside, the hallway smelled faintly of dust and old wood. Daniel unlocked his door and pushed it open. His apartment was small. A couch, a tiny kitchen, a cluttered desk, but it was warm. Safe, at least for now. The girl stepped inside slowly, her glowing eyes scanning the space. She whispered, "This is yours?" Daniel nodded. "Yeah, not much, but it's home." Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "Home, I never had one." Daniel swallowed hard. He closed the door, locking it even though he knew it wouldn't stop the hunters. Then he led her to the bedroom. It was small, barely enough space for a bed and a dresser. The sheets were messy but clean enough. Daniel pulled them back, gesturing. Here, you wanted a bed, right? Now you've got one. She stood frozen at the doorway, her glowing eyes wide. For me? Yeah, Daniel said, rubbing the back of his neck.
I'll take the couch.
You need it more than I do. Her voice trembled. No one has ever given me this, Daniel forced a smile. First time for everything. She stepped forward slowly, almost afraid to touch the mattress. When she finally sat, her whole body relaxed, as if the simple softness was more precious than anything she had ever known. Daniel turned to leave, but her voice stopped him. Daniel. He looked back. Her eyes shimmered with faint tears. Thank you. Not for the bed. For choosing me. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. His chest felt heavy but warm. Don't thank me yet. The hunters aren't gone. This isn't over. She lay back against the pillow, her glow softening until it was barely a whisper of light. No, it is not over. But for tonight, I am safe. Daniel stood in the doorway, watching her breathe, slow and steady. For the first time since the diner, she looked peaceful. He walked back to the living room and sank onto the couch. His body ached, his mind heavy, but he didn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, listening. Outside, the city was quiet. But somewhere in the dark, the hunters were waiting. He clenched his fists. He had no weapons, no plan, no idea how long he could keep this up. But one truth kept him steady. He would fight. He would fight because she wasn't just a weapon. She wasn't just a mistake. She was proof that even something built for destruction could choose life. And maybe, just maybe, humanity needed her more than she needed him. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment, not to sleep but to hold on to the thought. The hunters would return. The war wasn't over, but tonight in a small apartment, in a warm bed, she finally belonged somewhere.